here in Southern Ontario, where we're going to see some nice warmth today, heading our way in towards the last week of April. It's amazing. Yeah, just in under 10 days, I guess it is, that we're into the month of May. Busy time for all of us, even though it's been a cooler spring than what we've experienced in springs past. It's been a nice one overall. Yesterday, I was out there fertilizing my lawn. Today, I have ambitions to get out there and to weed my gardens and kind of go through and do some additional pruning, clean up, and just get prepared for planting. I will be starting to plant some of my cool crop vegetables within the next 10 days, probably within that first week of May. I'm going to be doing everything in troughs again. And as well, we'll be really just trying to document and show you exactly what we're doing throughout the season, because we're building that course, that online course, to help you grow your own food at your own home as well. For all those that are joining us today, good morning to you. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Sunday all overall. Just let you know, last week we had Tanya Carvalho on here from Ball and also from Selecta, and we had that prize pack that we're giving away. That prize pack went to Kay Mills of Chatham, Ontario. Kay Mills of Chatham, Ontario. Thank you for sharing that as well. In the upcoming weeks, we have more giveaways that'll be happening as well. I have a couple of other giveaways that I think you're going to be quite excited about as well. Good morning to Marlene. Good morning to Paula this morning. Good morning as well to Pat Wilson, saying good morning to you as well. Carrie Ann, good morning to you. Last week as well, I'm just looking at my other computer here, we posed the question to you about coleus, whether you like the blooms on coleus or you don't like the blooms on coleus. Well, we had Frances McNeil. She says, I have coleus in my garden every year. I snip the blooms off. I'd rather have full color foliage. And as well, Marg agrees with her. I cut off the blooms of coleus. I don't like them. And if I look through the comments overall, there was very few, little to none, of people that do like the flower on that coleus. And that's something that breeders could work towards to try to eliminate that seed pod, that bloom, from happening. And of course, as soon as we see anything that has a flower and or bloom, the energy of that plant goes towards that bloom. So that's why you should deadhead blooms once they're spent, meaning once they have finished in your garden. That'll put more energy back to the plant. And that's the reason why we prune after they bloom. If we prune our flowering shrubs after they bloom, we're going to put more energy to that shrub overall. There's Linda this morning look at this. Linda from Baltimore. Good morning, Frankie. Good morning from Baltimore as well. Here's a question that we have as well. Is there any benefit to using Epsom salts for houseplants? Epsom salts actually help the uptake of nutrient. So putting a weak dilution of Epsom salts, depending upon the plant material you're using, there will be some benefit because it'll be more efficient use of fertilizer. Epsom salts typically many old-time gardeners use in their flower gardens, but also most likely in their vegetable gardens. And a lot of the times it's used for tomatoes. And the reason for that is the Epsom salts helps that uptake of calcium. And by helping that uptake of calcium into that tomato plant, what it does is that it really allows for that plant itself to not have blossom end rot or minimize blossom end rot overall. Here we go this morning as well from Lise. Love gardening in your close second. Love you on BT and on here. Thank you for that. For those that don't know me, that maybe are watching from Baltimore for the first time, if you're wondering who the heck is this guy, my legal name is Francis Anthony Ferragine. I go by Frank or Frankie, but everybody calls me Frankie Flowers. I'm a 4-time best-selling garden author. My family has 2 garden centers. We also are greenhouse growers. We farmed for a long period of time as well. I still have cousins that farm in the Holland Marsh, and I'm here each and every Sunday to help you get out there and garden. But each and every Monday through Friday, you can see me live on breakfast television from 6 to 10 a.m. on City TV. And that's where I get to share my passion about gardening, but as well as I get to forecast the weather, because weather has a big, big impact on how things grow, of course. Here we go. There's Tanya saying good morning to us. It's still too early unless the carnations that you're leaving outside. I wouldn't leave your houseplants outdoors until overnight temps about 15 degrees. Yeah, we're getting, Tanya, we are getting tons of questions from people. As soon as the weather gets nice, as soon as they get all this ambition, they're thinking, yeah, now is the time to go out there. There's this guy called Jack Frost. This guy, Jack Frost, what happens at night is he drops that temperature below freezing. If he drops that temperature below freezing, and we have plants that are outdoors that are fairly soft, they have been indoors, or they're just not frost tolerant, what happens is in the cells, the water inside that cells, a reminder, a plant's made up of 90% water, that water freezes in those cells. When that water freezes, it actually expands And when it expands, it busts the cell wall. By busting the cell wall, it causes a lot of harm to a plant and can even kill a plant. We are way still too early. We still have single-digit highs here in Southern Ontario this week that we're going to be seeing. We're really looking to the middle of May to the end of May. Usually the safety point is at the end of May because Jack Frost, he's a tricky guy and you never know. He can appear at any time. You know that as well, Shar, because you're saying good morning from Winnipeg. And in Winnipeg, of course, that last frost date in Winnipeg could be into the end of that first week of June. And sometimes you could still see frost conditions in Winnipeg in the month of June quite easily overall. Here we go again. Good morning from Elaine. Thank you for your great presentation to our District 1 AGM yesterday. That was fantastic, by the way. Yesterday, I hopped on for the Horticultural Society's the annual general meeting, District 1 in Ontario. That meeting, we talked about contained excitement, some of the different containers and trends that are happening. And if you are a Horticultural Society, if you are an organization, I do hop on Zooms and do some speaking. My availability is pretty limited for this season. You can always inquire with Frankie at frankieflowers.com. I want to share you guys something as well, because I've been promising you that I've been working on things, and I want to show you what we've been working on. I'll show you a little sneak peek. There you go. This is a sneak peek at the new website that we are working on right now. And the one thing about the website as well is it will allow you to take a look at some different events that we'll be having coming up, and then also just some things to answer, and also how you can book me for events. This website we're working, you can see here, it doesn't have any real information that's there because I have to still populate all that information. It takes a lot longer than what you think. If you're out there trying to hop into the world of doing, oh, I didn't even share it. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I got to share this right now. There we go. Let me say share. There we go. I thought I was sharing it. Oh, no, that's my email. I shouldn't be sharing you my email. Oh my goodness. Today is just one of those days overall. I'm going to stop sharing. I guess I couldn't share that, but I'm working on the website. That's the best thing that I can say. So I'm trying my best there. There you go. Learning every day. That's what we're learning every day. So let's see what we got here. We got Kelly Lynn saying good morning as well. She's saying good morning, bright Sunday morning, Frankie, as well. Oh, that is Linda from Baltimore, Ontario. Baltimore, Ontario. Where is Baltimore, Ontario? I got to look that up. Good sunny morning from Wasaga Beach, one of the largest natural sand dunes in the entire world. Here we got another good morning. What kind of vegetables grow good in low lands? So low lands is really wet soils. And with that, I would do more leafy greens. They will do well. Lowlands, I would not do any root veg whatsoever, because if you have a pooling and or ponding of water in that area, you'll cause rot to those root veg. I wouldn't do any types of squash type plants because they'll get powdery mildew disease quite easy, or even any tomatoes. I'd strictly stick to some herbs like parsley, leafy greens, lettuce, romaine, Boston leaf, endive, escarole. Those kinds of things would do well for you in those areas. Hello from Newmarket. Newmarket, Sue, is where I was born, actually at the hospital there in Newmarket. Little fun facts. There's that same question for Rashid. We just answered that as well. Here we go with another question as well. Moving soon, Frankie. Want to take my tree peony and magnolia tree. Any suggestions? Well, now is the time because we're fairly cool still. We've had lots of moisture and those plants are still fairly dormant. It's the time where you may want to put them into pots. So if they're not that huge of a tree, being the magnolia, and the tree peony, of course, isn't, you can go to your local garden center and go get some grower containers, some used grower containers. And then what you can do is you can then transplant your magnolia and your tree peony into a pot that would be easy to move. In the meantime, while you're waiting to move, you can actually sink that pot in the ground so that it's actually got some more soil around it. And then when you're ready to move, just move it to the new home and or location. And then if it's in the summer season, I would almost sink the pot and everything in the ground and then transplant it in the fall. You probably want to use a root start fertilizer, something that's going to be a little bit of a transplant fertilizer, like a Quick Start from Miracle Grow's Quick Start fertilizer. It's one that will actually minimize the amount of transplant shock. Sue says her screen is frozen. I hope, oh, is Sue still frozen? I hope you're not frozen. Maybe just kind of reboot your computer overall. Is it the right time to seed our lawns, says Candace. Candace, it's still, we need soil temperatures to be about 15 to 20 degrees. It's still a little early. However, we have some temperatures that are warming, so we could get some germination. So if you wanted to seed your lawn now, I would recommend in another 2 weeks period, I would get you to reseed your lawn again. So I would overseed it a couple times. As a matter of fact, with the lawn that I have at this home, that now I've been in my home for just over a little bit over a year, my lawn last spring was my first spring here, was awful. So last spring, what I did was I started seeding that lawn in late April, and I continued to put seed down until about mid-June, and I would do it in 2-week intervals. Then in the fall, starting in late August, I put seed down in 2-week intervals, intervals, that is, until about mid-September. My lawn right now is thick, green, and lush. I did 3 fertilizings as well. A lot of hand removal of dandelions. I used a little bit of Weed Be Gone. And so it was a little bit of work that you did. But by doing that, by the multiple overseedings, I'm really trying to take up any of that vacant space in the lawn, being where there's no grass and or this exposed soil. And by me thickening that lawn up, I'm actually suffocating weeds out. That's the key. What we want to do is, now with cosmetic pesticide bans, is we really want to make our lawn the healthiest, thickest thing so that weeds don't have any ability to grow. Good morning. What do we do this week for lawn care? So this week for lawn care, what I would be doing is, if your lawn has flushed and grown, in some areas I've seen some of the lawn that has flushed out and is already growing, you can do a cutting of the lawn. I would definitely put a fertilizer down. That fertilizer should be like a Scott's Turf Builder, a Green Max, something with a high first number to get some nitrogen to that lawn. However, if your lawn is compact, meaning that if you're walking on that lawn and it feels like the soil underneath is hard as a rock, I would first aerate that lawn and then I would fertilize after. Today in Southern Ontario is a perfect day to put fertilizer down because we have rain tomorrow. So that'd be a great way. We're trying to use a slow release. Always fill your spreader up on the driveway, not on the lawn. So anything that falls over doesn't fall on the lawn. And always make sure that you're putting your settings appropriately so you're not putting too much on the lawn. If by chance you have any burn patches in your lawn from dogs, that's usually from a female dog because of the urine in that female dog's urine is so hot. So what you would need to do is to rake up those burn spots, and then you need to put a little bit of horticultural lime down. There's an easy seed for dog spots that you can use as well that already has the lime within it, the mulch and the seed. So those are some things. And the other thing that we could be doing for lawn care for this upcoming week is, as we're walking around our lawn, if we see any established weeds, just hand removal of those weeds will really benefit. And if it is a dandelion, just a reminder, you got to remove that taproot, because if you don't remove the taproot, what happens is that weed will continue to grow. So you have to remove the root and everything overall. So I hope you helped you out there for a little bit of lawn care. Hello, here we go. This is from Janine White. My cruise buddy, can't wait to see get my garden going. Good morning from Bradford. Janine's actually coming on the cruise as well. Once again, that's Emerald Cruise Lines. There's still some availability. Let's see if I can share the screen on that one. So we're going to go here to Chrome tab, and we're going to go to this one. We're going to go to share. There we go. We got that one there. So this is what we're talking about. If you're thinking about maybe doing some travel this coming summer, we are on a beautiful garden-themed cruise that will be the Jewels of the Rhine. It's a cruise that ends off in Floriade, and indeed, we're calling all garden lovers and gardening lovers. It's from July the 29th to August the 5th. I am your host on the cruise, where we'll be doing some garden trivia, plus I'll be doing a couple presentations as well. This is an amazing cruise, and if you take a look, it actually starts off in Zurich. So you'll fly to Zurich. You'll then take a transfer to Basel, Switzerland. You'll hop on the beautiful boat that will take you up that beautiful Rhine River. We're going to go all the way through. Hey, we even go to Cologne. And if you're wondering, Cologne, that's where the name Cologne came from. We end off in Amsterdam. And from Amsterdam, that's where we get to tour Floriade. There's your itinerary that is. And it includes 7 nights aboard, air transfers to and from the ship, the services of Admiral Cruise Director. There's a whole bunch of other things that are included. You're going to go tour the Black Forest. You get to go see some wine tasting. There's a whole bunch of things that happen with this as well. So if you're thinking about doing a cruise and you want to, that's an option for you. You can join us, and you can join Janine as well. Let's see what we got here for another question today. Hey, I have spider mites on my indoor rose plants. I don't have access to a garden center for any kind of special treatments. Also, how far away do I have to keep it from my other plants? So spider mites, of course, are sometimes you can see a little bit of light webbing and or sticky substance. If you want, I would quarantine. We all know the word quarantine. We do want to keep it fairly far away from the plants, because even us walking from that plant to another plant, the spider mites can attach themselves to our clothing, or if you have a pet, it's really hard to kind of keep that. What you would probably want to do is, if you want to have a treatment that you can do on your own, is an insecticidal soap. So if you did have access to a garden center, which you can order online and that can be shipped to you, it would be something like Weed Be Gone. Or what you can do is just look online for some different recommendations for insecticidal soap, how to create your own. And a lot of the times that can be done with a liquid dish soap and just water. That works to smother those insects. Just make sure that before you treat the entire plant, you treat one leaf or a small section of the plant, just so that you know that your dilution is right and that you're not going to harm or infect or kill that plant by trying to help it. So that's the key by sometimes using something like a Weed Be Gone, forgive me, not Weed Be Gone. When you're using something like a Bug Be Gone, that there also is an insecticide that's been formulated, safe to use indoors, but has been formulated in a way that you're not going to harm that plant overall. So I hope that helps. Look up insecticidal soap and away you go. You can also go and through and clean up, and sometimes alcohol swabs can work too in some of the badly infected areas. If that one plant is really infected with spider mites, my recommendation sometimes is to discard that plant, because you're better off just to discard it before it spreads to others, and or on a warmer day, put it outdoors and do the spraying outdoors on a warmer day. But if it's indoors, it will not be able to take any of that cold overnight temperatures. So it would have to come back inside. Good morning from Brampton. What kind of vegetables grow good in good lands? We've already talked about all the different leafy greens that you can use for that. Lowlands is what you're talking about, is where you have water that's pooling. Don't do any root vegetables. If you did onions, they would rot. Potatoes, they would rot. Carrots sometimes can do okay in some lower lands, as well as onions can do okay. But I would do things like leaf lettuce, romaine, things like that. Boston, endive, escarole, iceberg, head lettuce, those kind of things that would do well. Here it is, another question that we have here. I think it's too late. I think I'm late to the seedlings this year. What can I start seedlings now? Oh, you're not too late. As a matter of fact, things like beans, you can start right now. You can be starting some of your squash type plants. It's actually, I wouldn't even start your squash plants for another week. That's things like zucchini and your pumpkins, your watermelons, if you're thinking about doing cantaloupes, depending upon where you live. Beans, soak the seeds for 24 hours before doing that. Nasturtiums, you can start indoors right now too. If you want to do a little bit of a later crop, you can even do any of those leafy greens I mentioned can be started indoors. What you shouldn't be starting, what you're too late on, is tomatoes, peppers. Those are two things that you're a little bit late on, and many of the annual flowering plants, it's a little bit late for seed starting right now. Here's another question. This is from Jerry Lynn Thompson. Frankie, can I put down grub killer today? I know I asked last week, but it's pretty mild in Bowmanville. And also, can I do the grass seed at the same time? I would put your grub control down today, because we got that rain tomorrow. Excellent. I would still wait another week to do your overseeding. So get your grub control down. And then I would probably, in a month's time, maybe around even a little bit later than that, near the end of June, I would do another application of that grub control. But once again, do your seeding next weekend. And today you can go ahead and do your grub control. The grub control, ideally, you want the lawn to be watered, wet, and then watered in. But even if you put it down today, that rain tomorrow, up to 10 millimeters of rain in Bowmanville will be ideal. That's why I do weather too. See, because it all ties in. Weather, gardening, it's all life. There you go. Here's the question that we have here. When is a good time to plant cucumber seeds in the garden? Cucumbers is a warm crop. Cucumbers, as a matter of fact, really don't want to be growing in your garden until the end of May, beginning of June. If you want to start some cucumbers indoors just for some fun now, you can. They're really quick to germinate. I mean, really fast. Cucumber seeds will germinate within probably 4 to 5 days. And so if we're doing that now, within 2 to 3 weeks from now, we'd be planting it out. And then that would be perfect timing. So if you're thinking about cucumbers, generally cucumbers, any squash type plants, I generally like to encourage people not to be planting those till the end of May, that is, or the first week of June in Southern Ontario. Here we go. Good morning from Oakville, Pamela. Oakville, love it. Some great restaurants in Oakville, by the way. You'll see me there. I have a couple of friends that live in Oakville, so you will see me there every once in a while. Here's another question that we have for today. I was at the District 6 AGM in Hamilton yesterday. So the annual general meetings were happening yesterday for many horticultural societies. If you want to increase your knowledge in horticulture, I encourage you to join your horticultural society. There's nobody that knows your area and the gardens of your area better than people that live in your area. And there'd be a boatload of information there, and it's fun. They do lots for the community. There's plant sales that are involved. I've been speaking to local horticultural societies since I was in my late teens, early 20s. So I'm sorry to say, that's almost 30 years. Wow. Where did the time go? Don't you find that? Hey, Pamela. Hey there. Here we go as well. What is the best way to lower your pH in your garden vegetables? This is from Tiziana. So to lower your pH, which means is to acidify your soil with a lower pH, what you would want to be doing is putting some aluminum sulfate. Or what you can do is increase the amount of peat moss into that soil. Or you could even incorporate some pine needles. But pine needles in a vegetable garden sometimes can be hard. Some manures will actually intensify the acidity of your soil too to lower that pH. So to lower pH, we're going to be using something like an aluminum sulfate. To increase the pH or to neutralize that acidity, we would be using something like a horticultural lime. So there you go. Clay. Good morning, Clay. I didn't see you at the arena as much this year. Clay's son is a fantastic goalie, but Clay is also a good buddy of mine as well. Good morning from Wilmot Creek, says Brenda. Good morning to you as well. Jen, what question does Jen have? I recently replanted my houseplants with fresh potting soil and have noticed little white dots mostly all over the dirt. So some of those white dots that can be forming on the dirt can actually be a little bit of mold spores. I would just encourage you to take a fork and just kind of almost rake the top of that soil. That puts a little bit more aeration that's there. Indoor plants now, because their daylight hours are getting way longer, you should be increasing your watering of indoor plants. I often like to repot my plants a little bit later in the season because I do the repotting outside, the mess outside. And then after I pot them, I leave them outside for a period of time. I do have my peace lily that was normally in here, definitely needs to be repotted this year. I have 2 peace lilies that need to be repotted. And I also have a monstera that needs to be repotted as well. So those little white dots, just do that little bit of raking. That little bit of extra airflow will really help you out as well. Phyllis, good morning from PEI. Love PEI. I was only there once. I went there to speak for Communities in Bloom. Fantastic. I actually took my mom out, which was great. Here we go. Another question that we have. Janine White, can you talk about thatch rake for grass? Best seed to put down right now. So on Breakfast Television this week, I've been doing some work with Lowe's. Lowe's actually did some sponsorship on BT. And with that, I featured a thatch rake. The thatch rake is one that will pull up thatch on your lawn. And if you're thinking, what is thatch? Thatch is, if we look at a lawn and we have the green blade of grass, and if we follow that blade of grass down just to the base before the soil, you'll see a whole bunch of what looks like dead, matted lawn. As long as that's underneath 1/2 inch, you're completely fine. A little bit of thatch is a good thing. Too much thatch can actually impede nutrients, moisture, and also can be an area where things like cinch bugs could live. So you'd want to dethatch your lawn. If you have a large property, I wouldn't do a thatch rake. I would get a dethatcher. You can actually rent a dethatcher from any of your rental centers and things like that. And it'll be, and some of the times you can even get them on the end of, your whippersnippers. You can get an attachment that can fit on the end. That can be a thatch rake. You'll remove that thatch, break it up, and then after removing the thatch, you can then apply some overseeding of grass seed and or fertilizing and things like that. Grass seed, once again, needs a soil temperature between 15 and 20 degrees to germinate. Right now, our soil's too cool for grass seed. I'd still wait another week to be doing that as well. Here's another reply, and I like this. Jean Yee, replying to Rick Funnel, start the seeds indoors. I just did mine last night. They need a minimum 15.5 to germinate, and they prefer 30 degrees for growth. Jean, that's the whole idea of this community. So if you're joining us here for the first time, you can see there's only so many questions that I can answer within this half-hour period. But what this whole purpose is for us to create the conversation, to motivate people to get out there to garden and to help people to get out there to garden. So if you know the answers to those questions, get out there and answer them, because there's a boatload of knowledge that we have here and we're all just sharing. And when I read through, sometimes I learn. You can't know it all in the world of gardening. You're always learning. Good morning, Frank. Here's another one from Alan. When can we start to dethatch? You can start to dethatch as long as you walk on your lawn and your lawn feels fairly firm underfoot, not squishy, then your lawn's dry enough to work on. If your lawn's squishy underfoot, let it dry out a little bit, because if you were walking on a lawn that's still wet, we're going to create compaction. And by creating compaction, we're doing more harm than help. Rashid says thanks, which is good. We got another good morning from Wasaga Beach. Here's another question that we have here from Brenda. I uncovered my strawberries because they were too wet. Are they at risk from frost? What should I do? Brenda Morley. Most likely, it depends. If we're going to go below -5, I would just recommend you just to put a covering over the top. And a covering could be something as simple as a bed sheet that you can put over top. If you don't have a ton of strawberry plants and they're almost like individual, you can actually just take buckets under pots and put them over top and put some stones on top of the buckets. But generally, when we're going to have frost settles when we have an overnight temperature below the freezing mark, a clear sky, and light winds. If we have a breeze, if we have an overcast sky, if we have a wetter night with temperatures around that freezing mark, frost doesn't settle. Frost settles on clear nights with light winds with temperatures below freezing. And that's what you're doing. By putting a bed sheet over or putting the pot over, you're not allowing that frost to settle on top. That strawberry plant can take some of the cooler temperatures. That's not a problem. We just don't want the frost to settle on the top of it. That's why sometimes even down the Niagara region or other regions, you'll even see them lighting fires, or what they'll be doing is putting fans in some of the wineries when in spring when the temperature gets a little wonky. And that's the reason being is because they want to move some of that air around. Here's another thing. Can I put Grub be gone down now? Yes, I've been doing some, depends on where you live, but in Southern Ontario, I've been doing some digging in some different yards and I've seen the grubs have surfaced. The whole idea about the Grub be gone is we want to put it down when the grubs are a little closer to the surface. If you are having skunks and raccoons and things like that dig up your lawn, or moles, apply it. But then you may want to even do another reapplication. Is it too early to trim roses? No. Get out there, prune off any of the dead wood, any of the black stems, any of those white stems, prune those off, and it's not too early to prune roses. Here's another question that we have here. How far do you cut back a lavender plant in spring? I would just wait for your lavender to start to flush out a little bit of growth and then prune off any of the dead sections that you have there. It's hard to determine what areas have died because you will have some dieback. If you want to be safe, prune no more than a third. If you want to go out there and kind of trim it up, clean it up, prune no more than a third. But if it's dry, dead, or appearance like that, you can cut it back. But I would wait until another couple weeks because it does flush out a little bit later. Here's another good morning that we have from Ontario. Rosemary. Good morning to the province of Ontario. You hear my dog barking right there. He's banging on my door, but we'll deal with him in a second. Pamela, will tomato plants survive in raised gardens or should they be planted in the ground? Tomato plants do fantastic in raised gardens. The reason why they do so well in a raised garden is the soil warms quicker and actually the roots actually get warmer temperatures. And a tomato plant is all about light units, sunlight, and heat units. So they can actually outpace a tomato in the garden. You can get harvest earlier. It just needs to be a substantial raised garden and or pot. Those small 10-inch pots that you see them with the plastic cages, it's just not big enough of a pot for that plant to survive. So I would really go against that. Here's another question that we have today. Can I put Grub be gone down now in Oakville? Yes, you can. You guys go for it. And that's the control. When can I plant summer bulbs? You can plant summer bulbs in pots. That's dahlias, glads, even your canna-tubers. Plant them in pots indoors now. Get them going, get them growing, and then plant them outdoors after frost warnings have passed. So at my home in Bradford, Ontario, that would be around the 15th to 20th of May, depending upon weather, or to be safe at the end of May. So there you go with that. Can we cut the lawn? If the lawn is growing, it's active, and it's nice and green and lush, and it's over 3.5 inches in height, I would totally recommend to cut, right? Just make sure you're using a nice sharp lawnmower with sharp blades. That's really kind of key for you to do. Here's another question that we have. How can I get rid of moss? So moss is something that will grow in a shaded area with compacted soils that is acidic. So usually they grow on clay-based soils that are shaded and fairly moist. Things that you can do is try to prune out some branches to put more light into the area, reduce the compaction of that soil, aerate, put down lime to neutralize the acidity of that moss. So things that you need to do: neutralize acidity, that's lime. Eliminate compaction of soil, aerate, that's what you're going to do. Try to get more light into that space. And if you want to get more light into the space, try to prune out. If you can't prune out, then you may want to think about the two others, the aeration and the neutralizing acidity, and then maybe planting a little bit of clover in that space. Here we go. I'm going to take two more. Good morning. This is from in Tiny, Ontario, and that's Kawaja Beach. I don't know how to say that. So sometimes my enunciation is terrible. We got the how to get rid of moss already. We're going to do one more question on this day. Good morning. This is from Marion. Frankie, how can I get rid of large ant hills? So there are many different products that are available for the treatment of ants. The key about ants is, in terms of the ant hill, is we need to kill the colony. In order to eliminate that colony, we need to take care of the queen ant. In order to do that, we need to bait that ant. So often what we're going to be doing is using some sort of ant bait that can be purchased. You can see that Ortho has a product as well. That ant bait will then be picked up by the workers, and the workers of that colony will then take that into the mound and then will feed that queen ant and other ants and then kill off that colony. Other things you can do with a large ant hill is we can drown them out. So simply just putting a hose there on a really just drip and allow that just to drip in, that'll actually start to drown them out. The other thing that you can do is, if it's a smaller ant hill, boiling water, you can just put boiling water and pour that over the top of the ant hill as well. But the best thing to do is to bait them. So there you guys go. If you have additional questions, of course, I'm here each and every Sunday, 9 to 9:30. You can check me out at frankieflowers.com, my website that we're working on, but you can see my older version of website there. Frankie with an IE at frankieflowers.com is my email. You can follow me on Instagram, on Facebook. You can see me on Twitter. And of course, tomorrow morning, you will see me live on Breakfast Television. For all those that joined us today, I want to make sure that you have a blooming great day overall. And just a reminder that gardening is way better than therapy. And the reason why gardening is better than therapy is, at the end of it all, guys, at the end of it all, we get tomatoes and we feel good too.